Now this face is growing hair at an amazing rate. It might be funny to add some eyeballs to our face and have them look about madly as the hair grows on the face. Let's use onion skinning to create a couple of eyeballs that will fit on the right spot on our face. Let's open up our face cast member by double-clicking on it. To open up the View Onion Skin, open up the Onion Skin toolbar and click Set Background. Now we will have a face to trace our eyes against. We won't need to see the preceding cast member, so we can leave that at 0. Now let's click the plus button to create a new bitmap cast member. Let's turn on Show Background, and our face appears in the paint window. Now, we can use the Filled Ellipse tool with the gradient setting to create our eyeballs. If we click on that, and we have a gradient setting here. We have it set at sunburst, which is what I want. And now, when I draw in my eye socket, holding down the Shift key, I can create my eyeballs. So do this. And about there. Okay. Now, if I click the Shrink Lasso tool, select my eyeball, say Copy Bitmap, say Paste Bitmap. Now I can move my eyeball over to the other eye socket. And now I have 2 eyeballs in my eye sockets. I'm going to call this Eyes in Center. Okay. Now let's stop for a minute and add these. Actually, center. Let's stop for a minute and add these to our score just to see what that looks like. So we close our paint window and we drag this to our score. And notice we're kind of blocking out some. We need to set this to background transparent so we can see our sockets properly. Okay. Now we want to create the animation of these eyes moving back and forth in the sockets as the hair grows. So of course we could just drag this cast member, the Eyes in Center, into the score and then move it on the stage so that it would animate that way. But I'm going to show you a different way of doing this so that you can see how registration points affect the position of sprites on the stage. So let's go back to our Eyes in Center cast member. And double click there. This brings up our window. Now I'm going to click the next cast member. It's going to go back to the beginning where the face is. Okay, I'm going to set this as my background. Set background. I'm going to go back to my eyes and I'm going to do Show Background. Okay, now I see my background. Now I'm going to create another set of eyes, this time shifted a little bit to the right. So I do this by first selecting the eyes in the Eyes in Center cast member. I've selected it. I say Copy Bitmap. I say plus to create a new cast member. And I go to Paste Bitmap. And it by default puts it back in the same position where it was in the previous cast member. But I'm going to call this Eyes Shift. Shift right. Okay. I'm going to want these eyes to appear to shift to the right. And we can do this by changing the location of the registration point for this cast member. We can see the registration point that we currently have set by clicking on the registration point tool in our tool bar here. And we see our registration point is set here. Now we can change the position of our registration point by clicking in our window while we have the registration point tool selected over here. And in order to understand this, you need to remember that the position of our sprite on the stage is given in terms of the distance of its registration point from the top left corner of the stage. So, if we move the registration point for our bitmap cast member, the sprite, which references this cast member, will show up in a different position on the stage. And we want our eyes to shift to the right, so paradoxically we move our registration point to the left and we can do this by just clicking. Well, we have the registration point tool selected, clicking on our paint window. Now notice the effect that this has. We can see the eyes have shifted to the right. We can see this in our tracing image. Okay. Now let's we can see the effect that this has in our animation by adding this cast member to our score. Let's move our paint window out of the way. Leave it open, but move it out of the way. And let's close it. We'll just close it for now. Close our paint window. We have eyes shift right. Let's drag this into the next spot in the score. Drag it into the next spot in the score. And make sure we change our ink effect to background transparent. Now if you'll notice, it shows up sort of shifted a little bit to the right. Okay. Let's create another well, actually, before I go on, let me just tell you. Okay, we dragged it into the score, so it appears centered on the stage, but that centering is based on the registration point. And since we moved the registration point, the eyes are now shifted a bit to the right. Okay, just wanted to clarify that. All right, so let's create another eyes cast member, but this time let's shift the eyes to the left. This time, rather than copying and pasting the eyes, let's just copy and paste the eyes in center cast member. We can copy a whole cast member, and we do that by selecting it in the cast window and then selecting copy under the edit menu, copy cast members. Okay. We move to the spot where we want to paste it. We say edit, paste. Now we have a copy of the cast member we just made. Let's rename this one. Instead of eyes in center, let's call it eyes shift left. Hold on a minute. Spell that properly. Eyes shift left. All right. Now, let's double-click on its icon here in the cast window to open it up. And now we can change its registration point. Actually, before we do this, let's, again, set our background. If we click right. Now notice when I say I'm clicking right, I click right, and what it's doing, since there are no more bitmap cast members over here, if I click right, it automatically goes back to the beginning. So by clicking right, I go to my face, I set it as background, there, and now if I go left, again, if I go left, there's no more there, so it's automatically going to come back to the end. So I click left, and there's my eyes shift left, and I want to see the background, so I click show background. Okay. Right now my eyes are in the center. I want them to shift to the left. Again, paradoxically, I click my registration point. I have my registration point tool selected, and I click on my face a little bit to the right of where it is, and this will shift the eyes to the left. Good. So that's what I want. Now I have eyes shifting left, eyes shifting right, and eyes in center. If I add the eyes shift left to the next spot in the score, And I make sure to set this to background transparent. Now, if I rewind and play, you will see these eyes shift back and forth as the hair grows. Rewind, play. There they go, shifting back and forth. And they disappear because we don't have our eyes in the rest of our score here. But we will show you how to extend this in our next section.